Hello, my name is Avery Mills, and I'll be talking about the Daisetsuzan, otherwise known as the playground of the gods. The Daisetsuzan Kokuritsu Koen is in English known as Daisetsuzan National Park. Daisetsuzan means Great Snowy Mountains in English, which checks out. It is the largest national park in Japan at 2,267,000 square meters. And it is just outside of a pretty famous, two actually famous towns called Furano and Bie. You can see it here is Daisetsuzan Park. Mountain number, well, we can't see them, but here's what it is. And then these are representation of Furano and Bie, which are the local towns that are constantly fighting over who is the most beautiful. But they get their wonderful land from the runoff and landslides that came originally from the Daisetsuzan. And this is actually where I originally saw them, was inside of Furano and Bie. All right. The island of Hokkaido, which you can see up here. This is a map of Japan. This top island here is Hokkaido. And here where these three triangles are is the Daisetsuzan National Park. The park itself is located on the Okhotsk Plate, but the island itself is located on the Eurasian and the Okhotsk Plate. This is where we have a subduction zone with the Pacific Plate, but this is a super good example of collision orogenesis, and this is where the island was actually formed by two islands on separate plates colliding with each other and creating, there's actually a pretty amazing mountain range here from this collision, and you can see the point where it really hit, marked on this map. But all of this kind of caused volcanic activity to erupt over here. And notable volcanoes are Asahidake, Tokachidake, and Kurodake, which actually, dake is mount or mountain, how we say it in English. So in English this would be Mount Asahi, Mount Tokachi, and Mount Kuro. But I will probably be saying dake because that is what I'm used to. We'll talk about this in just a second. But here is a photo. I do not have photos of this area because, boy, I was there in 2015. It was a long time ago, and I didn't really have any cameras. I barely had a smartphone. But I got most of my pictures on Google. This is Asahidake. It's very beautiful. The lake in front of it's pretty popular. This whole area is pretty popular to go to. It is not like currently active. Its last eruption was in 1739. It is a stratovolcano, and the elevation is 7,516 feet. It's pretty big. Next we have Tokachidake. It is also a stratovolcano. The peak of it is actually right here in this part of the picture. The elevation is 6,814 feet, and its last eruption was actually in 2004, pretty recently. This particular volcano, they're still keeping a pretty close eye on. Next we have Kurodake. This is a dome volcano. Its elevation is 6,510 feet, and its last eruption, more recent than Asahi, but 1739, so I think we're pretty good. We don't have to worry about it. I especially wanted to include this one because it has the appearance similar to Mount Fuji, but it is not Mount Fuji. It is very beautiful though. All right. From the plates and the subduction zone and the collision that happened, on the top of the ground, due to those things, but also the volcanoes, you can find rhyolite, which is only found from very explosive volcanic eruptions, and we can see that there was a subduction zone too, even on land, because of the andesite and basalt that is found there. Very interesting, very cool. I did not know this. The geologic process in the area that has happened besides all this plate tectonic activity was glacial activity. It is very far north, the island of Hokkaido. It is way up there, around kind of the same level as like the northern part of Michigan, the UP. There's a lot of glacial activity that has formed really big U-shaped valleys in the area. There's rivers and a lot of snow melt. Japan has the highest level of snowfall every year. And the snow melt also causes landslides. Landslides also are triggered by earthquakes due to all of the volcanoes in the area. Tokachidake, which I showed you earlier, is currently active, but they monitor the gases and the geothermal activity very closely to make sure, if anything happens, that they can warn everybody ahead of time. This is super normal for Japan, though. They've got it under control. Then here's a picture of the U-shaped valley surrounded by mountains. Very, very cool, formed by glaciation. And then here is a picture of Mount Tokachi. I just wanted to show a good image of what the landslides in the area look like, and also Tokachidake in like the warmer months is very cool to look at with all these formations from landslides and snowmelt. Very, very cool. All right, the cultural significance of the area is this area was actually lived in by the Ainu people. They're the original people of Japan. They believed that mountains and volcanoes were sacred, and they actually lived very close to the Daisetsuzan, if not in what we now consider the park to be. They were hunter-gatherers, and they actually had bathhouses in the area from the thermal vents and like water hotspots. The national park was established in 1934. It has very strict zoning limits to make sure the park stays protected. They have very eco-friendly tourism. They have a lot of resources before you actually enter the park so that you can take the time to learn about it before you enter. And there's a few different places where you can learn about it before you go in, because it's a very, very large park. They do have hiking and skiing, very designated areas, very protected. You cannot deviate from these specific places because this has been around a lot longer than it was a park. And that also goes for the onsen. And onsen are bathhouses. There you go, you've learned a new word in Japanese. And that is definitely a favorite thing to go to for the Japanese people and tourists. Here's a picture of the Ainu people. One of the things that they are famous for is their art, which can be seen here on their clothes. It's amazing to see in real life. Now, there is a river that goes from the Daisetsuzan and feeds all the way out to the ocean. And this is called the Ishikari, Ishikari-gawa, which is river. And this river is where the Ainu people lived and would migrate to and from on. And it starts at Ishikari-dake, Ishikari Mountain, and then the Ishikari River goes all the way down, and then through Asahikawa, which is a very large city, all the way through Sapporo, the largest city on the island, and then out in the ocean. And actually, I've learned and was shocked, this river actually exited far south of here in Tomakomai, which I've also been to 40,000 years ago. And then here is a picture of the Ishikari River Basin. It's quite large, quite large, much larger than the Grand Rapids River Basin. Pretty amazing. The environmental threats to the area. Firstly, though, this is home to the Hokkaido brown mare, the Ezo deer, and I think it was 250 different alpine plants. And my favorite one is the Aleutian avens. It is so pretty. I have a picture for you. It has a lot of biodiversity because of all of the various elevations and climate zones caused by volcanoes and regular mountains that are, not warm. There's a lot of tourism in the area, which I've already talked about. That is a contributing factor to the environment being under threat. Even though they take very, very good care of it and they're very strict about it, there could still be issues like littering. The trails can be eroded, So I do believe they actually take the time to move the trail around to keep that from happening. There's a lot of air pollution that comes through from China and Russia specifically, because Hokkaido is very, very close to Russia. But also the air carries a lot of pollution over from China, and that can contribute to snow and air quality decline. And this climate change is also, these this air pollution is kind of also helping with the warming of the area, and that is causing the snow, the area that the snow covers, to shrink, which is also causing the flora and fauna of the snowy areas to retreat, like further up the mountain, is changing where these climate zones are. And that is also decreasing like where wetland flowers are, which are pretty essential to keeping a wetland, because the snow is thawing sooner. The permafrost, which is also important to certain plants that grow and the animals that live in the ground, there's not as much of that happening. I know we have that issue too here in Michigan with the apples and the maple trees. And there have been more typhoons and heat waves than usual, and actually more landslides because of this earlier snow melt. And that has caused a lot of issues in the area, even outside of the park, because these are very large mountains. Here's a picture of, I'm so happy I found this, a picture of the Ainu people with a bear that they killed. Pretty amazing. Brown bears are so big. Here's the Aleutian avens. It's a very beautiful little flower, and this is Asahidake in the background. And these flowers actually lose their petals and turn in this cute little fluffy guy over here. It's amazing. It's such a cool transformation goes through in the spring. And then here are the Ezo deer. This is a picture of one of the largest groups of them, but they're so cute. Ooh. And I just wanted, this is the one picture I have that I could find. Again, this was a long time ago, of the view I had of the Daisetsuzan. This is way from the outside looking in. But I did a lot of camping and hiking around the area and looking at all the lavender that's very famous, having some lavender ice cream. It's very fun. And the onsen are top tier. I love going to the bathhouses, especially in Hokkaido. This class has helped me learn so much, even about an area that I've been to, and I felt like I already knew a lot about it, but I've learned even more. And I also wanted to share, if anybody decides to go to Japan and go to this area, I know they're pretty famous for their skiing in Hokkaido. I have heard. I am not a winter person myself, but feel free. I found this pretty cool website. It's a visitor center guide for Asahidake. It's super cool. You can see what it looks like from the outside in case you need to get lost. A little map for the inside. But they have like really amazing things to see before you go through learning about Daisetsuzan and the flora and fauna of the area. It's very cool. But I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you.